Galaxy. A galaxy is a collection of stars and planets that are held together by gravity. In a galaxy, the celestial bodies rotate around a central object. Cosmos. The cosmos is the sum total of everything, pretty big. It's hard to wrap your mind around the cosmos, as it extends far beyond the Milky Way, or far-off galaxies. Universe is a big word. In fact, it includes all matter and all of space. Interstellar. If something happens, or is located in between stars, is interstellar. If you dream of interstellar travel. Terrestrial, not straying far from its Latin root terra, meaning earth. Terrestrial means of the earth. If it's terrestrial, you'll find it on Earth. If it's extraterrestrial. Celestial. What is the difference between a celestial being and a celestial body? The first is something living, such as an alien or an angel. Astronomy is the science that looks up at stars, at other planets, at solar systems, at galaxies, and at everything else in the universe. Astrology. If you don't leave your house without checking your horoscope, and you're always asking people. Astronaut. An astronaut is someone who travels in space, while the term was once reserved for military-trained professionals. Comet. A comet is a small, icy object that orbits the Sun and has a long tail of gas. Some comets can be seen from Earth every few years, while others pass by once in a person's lifetime. Meteorite. A meteorite is a rock that falls to Earth after a brilliant meteor has passed through the Earth's atmosphere. Crater. A crater is a roundish dent left in the surface of something by the impact of something else. Look at the Moon. It's covered in craters from thousands of impacts over millions of years. Dust is the fine, powdery substance that settles on surfaces over time or is blown around outdoors. A junk shop might be full of beautiful old furniture and books, all covered with dust. Ash. The residue that remains when something is burned. Envelope. An envelope is something that envelops, or wraps around. It usually refers to the thing you stick a stamp on in snail mail. Chunk. A compact mass are put together indiscriminately. Spacecraft. A spacecraft is a vehicle, or machine designed to fly in outer space. Spacecraft are used for a variety of purposes, including communications, Earth observation, meteorology. Probe. If you probe something, you investigate it thoroughly. If you go into business with someone, you might probe her finances to make sure that she has a good track record. Module. A module is an individual part that combines with other components to make different things. You might have one module that's a cube, and another that's a slab of wood. Propulsion. The act of moving something forward is called propulsion. Propulsion is the force that pushes a rocket into space, that sends a football spiraling toward a receiver's hands. Pressure. You feel pressure when something presses on you, whether a physical force or a stressful situation. if you don't crack under the pressure of witnessing the accident. Dynamics. Dynamics refers to the branch of mechanics that deals with the movement of objects and the forces that drive that movement. If you're taking a physics class. Motion is the way things get from place to place. The ball rolling down a hill is in motion, and as Isaac Newton once proved. Vent, a hole for the escape of gas or air. Tail, the part of a dog's body that wags enthusiastically when the dog is happy is the tail. In mammals, tails are actually an extension of the spinal column. Curve, the trace of a point whose direction of motion changes. Exploration. An exploration is a trip, but it's more than just a vacation. It's going somewhere to examine and discover new things. Expedition. An expedition is an organized journey that is undertaken for a particular purpose. Flyby. A flight at a low altitude, usually of military aircraft, over spectators on the ground. Observatory. An observatory is a structure that holds a large telescope for observing the stars and planets or some celestial event. If you want to check out a lunar eclipse. Telescope. A telescope is an instrument that is used to view distant objects. If you want to look at the planets, you can use a telescope. The higher the magnification on the telescope. Spectacle. A spectacle is something you can't believe you are seeing. Get on top of your desk at work in your underpants while playing the kazoo and you're making a spectacle of yourself. Orbit. To orbit is to follow a circular or elliptical path around a central body. Usually a planet, moon or satellite is described as orbiting. Ecliptic. Astronomers use the noun ecliptic to describe the sun's path as it's seen from the Earth. Diameter. It's good to know where the diameter of a circular object is if you have to split a cookie between two 5-year-old kids. Think of a round chocolate chip cookie. Radius. If you're a detective working a crime investigation, you might be told to search over a 1-mile radius, meaning scope out everything that's within 1 mile of the crime scene. Substance. Any material that possesses physical properties is called a substance. The word also refers to the gist or main idea of something. If you remember the main point of a lesson. Composition is another word for writing, the act of writing or the piece of writing that results. It also refers to what something is made of. Compound. If you compound a problem, you add something to it to make it worse, like say, putting water on a grease fire. Compound means to combine. Fossils are the really old remains of a plant or animal, so old they've turned to stone. Fossil is also an insult for an older, old-fashioned person. Sample. A sample is a small part of something that either represents a bigger whole or is designed to let you try something out. Specimen. Specimen is a sample of something, like a specimen of blood or body tissue that is taken for medical testing. Particle. A particle is a small piece of anything. Particle can also refer to a subatomic particle with mass and structure, but takes up hardly any space at all. Molecule. A molecule is the simplest structural unit of a substance that still keeps the properties of that substance, like a molecule of water. Atom. An atom is the basic unit of an element. When you see the chemical formula for water, H2O. Ion. An ion is an atom or particle with a positive or negative electrical charge. Think of an ion as having a plus or minus sign. Electron. If you take chemistry, you will learn about electrons. Electrons are the smallest of the particles that make up an atom, and they carry a negative charge. Quantum. While quantum refers to a general quantity or size, it is most often used in physics as a measure of the smallest amount of something, usually energy, that something can possess. Liquid. In everyday use, liquid is the opposite of solid. Water at room temperature is a liquid. Heat it to boiling, it turns to a gas. Chill it below freezing, it turns to ice. Fluid. Something that is unstable or subject to change can be described as fluid. The fluid political situation in a particular country makes it unsafe to travel there. Solid. A solid, as opposed to a liquid or gas, has a size and shape to it. It doesn't flow like water or disappear into the air. Synthesis combines so as to form a more complex product. Formation. A formation is an arrangement of people or things. Planes flying in formation make a deliberate, specific pattern in the sky. Method. There's a certain way of doing things. A systematic, logical process for accomplishing a task. And it's called a method. Spectrum. A spectrum is a broad range of similar things or qualities. Like the wide spectrum of political beliefs in this country. Dimension. A dimension is the measurement of something in physical space. You might give the painters every dimension of the rooms you want painted, including depth, height, and width. Frequency measures how often things repeat over time. City buses often reach stops at a frequency of every 15 minutes, unless it's snowing or raining really hard. In that case, signal. A signal is a gesture or message that people use to communicate with each other. Antenna. An antenna is a feeler found on the head of a bug. You know, the gross, creepy, pointy things they wave around and use as feelers or sensors. Circuit. A circuit is a circular path. It could be the circuit of an electric current or the route of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If you're promoting your new book. Refraction is the bending of light or sound as it passes through something like a wall, sound, or a window, light. Ultraviolet. Use the adjective ultraviolet to describe light with a wavelength that's less than visible light, but longer than X-rays. You can't see ultraviolet light. Radioactive. When an object gives off a certain kind of energy, like the sun or an X-ray machine, it can be described as radioactive. Distinct. Distinct. When something is distinct, it is easily identifiable or set apart from others of its kind. Discernible. Discernible. Discernible means noticeable. If your extra hours training are having no discernible influence on your basketball game, it means your game has not changed. Invisible. Invisible. If you are invisible, you can't be seen with the naked eye, but you can do an awful lot of spying. When you do something embarrassing, you often wish you were invisible. Collision. Collision. A collision is when two or more things smash together. You shouldn't give yourself a pedicure while driving because it might result in a collision. Squash. Squash. A squash is the edible fruit of squash plant, but it's considered a vegetable in the kitchen, like peppers and tomatoes. As a verb. Fragment. Fragment. A fragment is a small piece that's come off a larger whole, and a fragment is to break. If your teacher writes frag on your paper, you've got an incomplete sentence. Cataclysmic. Cataclysmic. Something that's cataclysmic is violently destructive. The word often refers to natural disasters, like a cataclysmic earthquake. Overwhelming. Overwhelming. Something overwhelming is very intense and hard to deal with. Overwhelming events make people worried and stressed out. Despair. Despair. Despair is the feeling of not having any hope left. If you completely forgot to study for your final exam in math, you might feel despair when your teacher passes out the test. Desperate. Desperate. Desperate means having lost all hope. If you are desperate for food, it means you are starving, possibly about to die. If you are in a desperate situation. Hopeless. Hopeless. Someone who's hopeless believes that nothing good can happen. A happy ending seems impossible. If you realize there's no way you'll pass your biology class.